Okay, so what I've done is I have, broadcasted on Facebook JKVM Gashtaruk page, and I have also started recording just to keep everybody informed. ये webinar या ये session is almost weekly karan. ये bro के sessions यात मज़ कश्मीरी musicus पेट्रेस बच्चन हुन या बे leading performance हुन तक program 2 घंटन हुन शामन करा ये थी lockdown शुरू हो ताकि बना इस गाश्तारुक live. Then we also started Kathbat, live Kathbat यात मज़ के senior personalities इस community हिंद जीवन. They would, interact with one of our persons who could, discuss various topics with him, particularly related to his career, particularly related to his life. And this JKVM Gen Next Talk series, that is what we call this. Yatmas is ka leading personality community hundiwa use on different fields and mashiwa asan. The temisitian ak interaction ti karan to be such ak panning views ti thawan pani field as mutlak ak inspiration create karan san youngsters and khatra. The be ak kashiri hund ak pride use on aise community hund share suti ak express karne ki koshish karan. Yat program is muzai Winistan kashi leading nafar. Winistan almost 3 vice chancellor JNU Kimsan Prof, former Vice Chancellor Sopuri Sir Timtia Yatmas, Central University Jammu Ashok Amaji Timtiru Yatmas. Then we had professionals Anshu Kaksh from IBM. We had a foreign services diplomat from our community Rahul. He was with us. We had Shirin Ban, leading journalist from business journalism. She was with us. Rakesh Kohli from US. So many, leading Kashmiri leaders of different walks of life, they joined us in this session. So we, there's a closed group, in fact, of those who come together to join this Zoom program, and then we also put it on Facebook so that a larger audience can view this. The format generally is that the guest speaker speaks for 15-20 minutes or 30 minutes, and then we follow it with questions and answers. But today we are slightly changing the format, as Pradeep ji wanted this to be more interactive. So we will have an interaction, Pradeep ji with Siddharth, and then we will have questions and answers. We have already shared a brief profile of Pradeep ji. I am sure the participants may have gone through it. The profile Purmut. काफी impressive. Using के major highlights time profile करतो इस्तेन share. Pradeep ji चक leading a IT company. Using Bangalore was based मगर world over staff offices. Microland Limited. Time chairman the managing director. So Microland चक leading IT company which has around 4,500 people working, professionals working with it from Asia, Australia, Europe, Middle East, North America. In fact, Pradeep Jain ji ke important
I
think I need to mute some people first. Pradeep Jain ji ke leading technology companies developed the Karimatsa. He has sold those companies, which include, I remember during those days, it used to be very popular, India.com, PlanetAsia.com, NetBrahma Technologies. In fact, Pradeep ji honor karna World Economic Forum. World Economic Forum, you remember, Modi ji generally goes to that conference, and is very reputed business conference of the world in Davos, where he has been honored, and he has been acknowledged for his pioneering work, bringing technology to India. So he was honored as global leader for tomorrow in that World Economic Conference. Pradeep ji has also served as a non-executive director in the board of UBM. UBM is a leading exhibition company, multinational company who's technology exhibitions. He is also on board of Shrishti Institute of Art, Design and Technology in Bangalore. And he is professional qualified as an engineer first, and then he also did management. So it's a privilege, it's an honor for us that he has accepted our invitation. The Timokor join Bekor Kaifi ki Siddharth, you are trying to mute me.
Oh, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
So, so the issue is we are honored and delighted that Pradeep ji is with us today, and he agreed to join us for this webinar. We are also delighted that one of our own, fellow activist, in fact, I must say, Siddharth, who is a very leading business journalist in India, हर major newspapers the electronic media starting from Financial Express to Hindustan Times to Business Standard to CNBC to Bloomberg, BITV. So recently is BITV's managing editor. So he is with us. A great honor for us that our own team member who is a very reputed professional in his own field. He has also joined us as a moderator for this session. So it's a great honor to have both of these together. So what we will do is Siddharth will start an interaction with Pradeep ji. And after that interaction, we will have some questions. We have already received few requests. So we will give them a chance first to, ask questions. And after that, others, if time permits, others can also raise their hands as we have been doing in the past. You raise your hand in this Zoom application. We will unmute you and then we can, move forward. Today I'm not muting. I think most of the people have now understood the dynamics of Zoom, so that everybody is muting himself on his own. So I don't have to do that monitoring today. So I think we can straight away start the session. Siddharth, so please take it over, and we will be delighted to listen to the proceedings.
Siddharth. Thank you very much, Sanjay ji. Namaskar to all the people who are joining in on this session of learning, sharing, understanding the story of Kashmir through Kashmiri Pandits, through the native born people and people like Pradeep Kar. I just want to add 2-3 lines of introduction further to what my friend Sanjay Ganju described about Pradeep Kar. Yet asna sarni pai, but Ian's professional journey, entrepreneurial journey, career journey gay lagbag 3 vari bron start Microlanders suit. Bosu Simon Lutmak Paran, and I noticed that Imavkar Paninso journey 1989 as man shuru. So I sarni khatra question khatra chu 1989 uk yus vari chu suchak vari yusna zah mashid gachi. Tami viz tami vari yat agar vanav kashir poet kashir pe itrat the 3 vari gaye to 3 vari pat chu aise sarni button khatra kafi setha zyada Jan examples of hardworking, educated, sincere, technology-minded, and genuine, honest businessmen. And I think it is a great honor and privilege for me to welcome once again on behalf of the entire family here, Pradeep Karji, because he symbolizes what Mata Sharda has blessed all Kashmiri Pandits with. That is knowledge and the willingness and the desire to fight and persevere. Sanjay ji gave his introduction. I just want to add 3-4 points. Pradeep ji took an engineering degree at Visvesvaraya National Institute of Technology, one of the foremost engineering institutes of India, located in Bengaluru, in 1981. And then he went to do an MBA from the SP Jain Institute of Management and Research, again a very reputed management institution. His first professional calling was with Wipro, and he soon then went to the United States to run Sonata Software for 3 years. When he came back, he founded Microland, and that is where he has been chairman of Microland till now. And I must add, just before I start my interaction with Pradeep Karji, that he's perhaps amongst the very few Indians on earth, in fact, not just Indians, very few people on earth who has sold anything to Rupert Murdoch. For someone to make a sale to Rupert Murdoch from the media, technology, IT, software world is an achievement in itself. And he has a long string of achievements. But what I will do is I want to bring him in, and we will make this session interactive as per his request. So Pradeep ji, I'm going to unmute you. And welcome once again. Bumarachus, I request kara, you are free to speak in any language that you are comfortable with. But Buchus to Gonduk Sawal Yasa Prutsun ki yel to Kashiri drive parne, to kya drive to Vertive Bangalore. How did you reach from Bangalore, and what were the circumstances and the reasons that you went to take your engineering education in Bangalore?
Okay, thank you, Sanjay, and thank you, Siddharth, for the glorious introductions. I do hope I'm able to live up to the introductions that you have made. I want to be very cautious today because I have my very accomplished sisters also, I noticed, on this Zoom call, and my cousins. So, so they will quickly correct all the things that I might say inappropriately. So, hi, Sunita, hi, Rajni, and a lot of my cousins are there. So, thank you for joining in. First, it's an honor and a pleasure when I got requested by Rakesh Kaul to say, why don't you have a chat with Sanjay and Siddharth? And I felt touched that, we are trying to do, this initiative in a lockdown situation is for encouraging optimism, positivism, and giving the younger youth hope in the future. A small correction, Siddharth. My engineering was at the Visvesvaraya National Institute of Technology in Nagpur. Minor correction. Now, so coming back to your question, how did
thank you.
Yeah. How did I land up in Bangalore, right? I guess me and my elder sister were born in Srinagar. We used to live in Renawari, and my father was running the Gandarbal power station. And he got superseded, from what I understand, by a junior Muslim officer. And on principle, he was one of the few, I would say, technocrats in that era that had gone to BHU, Banaras Hindu University. And then he had gone to Manchester in England to study. And at Manchester in England, he had got an offer to join the Tata Electric companies, but he was very committed to coming back to Srinagar and Kashmir. So he came back and joined the Jammu and Kashmir government to set up the Gandarbal power station. So when he got, I would say, superseded by a junior officer, on principle he left and went off to Mumbai to take the offer with the Tata Electric companies. So that's how we landed up in Mumbai. I studied in Mumbai, did my engineering in Nagpur, and my first job offer from campus was Wipro. Today it's called Wipro Information Technology Limited. It was Wipro those days, many people may not know, was called as Western India Vegetable Products. And today one might say it was a foresight to join the IT industry. I'm a mechanical engineer, an automobile specialist who had done the training earlier in Telco, which is now Tata Motors. And the only reason, when I think about it, why I joined Wipro, and there were a lot of new anecdotes that I have, was not that in '83 that one thought that IT would be the future of the world. I just thought that whatever I do in my life, IT will help me. So I joined Wipro not with the view of continuing my career there. I joined Wipro with the view of spending 2 years learning of IT and then moving on to consumer marketing, which then was my passion. Wipro was based in Bangalore. So that was my first era when I came to Bangalore after my B school in Mumbai. And the training was in Bangalore, and my posting was in Mumbai. We used to work from Mr. Premvir's house in Bandra, facing the sea face. This is early years of 1983. And after spending close to 2 years, I suddenly saw an ad in the newspaper which said, looking for people to set up India's first computer retail chain. And that's where I felt, look, it's on information technology, it's retail, it takes care of my interest of consumer marketing. So I was third employee that went and joined a company called Computer Point. For people who know Computer Point, it was set up by the Indian Organic Chemicals. Its first store and the only store and the only office was a 1,200 square feet store opposite Glaxo on Dr. Annie Besant Road.
Okay.
Now you can imagine, and my sisters will start laughing here, that my father was a strong Tata person who retired from the Tata Electric companies. And for me, after my engineering, mechanical engineering, and my B school, I joined what was then called a Dalda company. Western India vegetable products. So that itself was, I would say, a surprise and a shock. Now that didn't end there. Had it ended there, it was a fine. And then I joined a Computer Point, which was a store.
1,200
right?
square foot store.
1,200 square feet, only office, etc., etc. And I remember, that very often when someone asked where did Pradeep work, it was said he worked for the Indian Organic Chemicals, which was then a larger company, and Computer Point was a small store. I still remember once my conversation with my father, who was unfortunately not here, did not live long enough to see the success, to say, look, if you really want to work in a store, let me see if I can buy a store. So those were the decisions I took, very very sure of myself what I wanted to do, and very non-conventional. Most people, a lot of my cousins who are here would join the Tatas because that was a secure job. And here I joined a Dalda company. I left Dalda company after 1.5 years and I joined a store. So my journey was in that manner. And coincidentally, Wipro, therefore, my first exposure to living in Bangalore was in '83. I remember living in Bangalore in a hotel called Hotel Gautam, which is on Level Road, for 70 rupees a double room. Those days, salaries were quite insignificant or significant.
Gautam still around, Pradeep?
Gautam is still around. I think it's called something else. Gautam and Airlines were the two hotels in Bangalore.
Did you ever feel like acquiring that hotel?
No. I'm quite practical. Anyway, so I liked Bangalore, and it seemed to be a quaint place, walking distance, and two, one had the advantage of living on your own, affordable. So salaries were 2,300 rupees, and you could still live on your own in Bangalore, right? And then I moved to Bombay for Wipro, and then Computer Point decided to move headquarters to Bangalore. So I moved with them in the corporate. I was third employee there. And, it was, I find it quite, when I think of the decisions I took, and when I was interviewing with Indian Organic Chemicals for Computer Point, so let me, if you look at in the era of the 80s, right? Most parents, at least my parents, etc., when they were close to retiring, they would take the money out from the provident fund and then buy a house. So in my mind, in the 80s, I practically visualized how much I will earn in my entire life. I'll say 2,300 rupees into 5%, 7%, X years, or so many years. The economy has changed dramatically. So I said I didn't want to get constrained with that amount of earnings capacity. So that was my first decision there, right? And even in college and pre-engineering, I had this entrepreneurial streak not to get constrained with how much I can earn. So, I took, in a trivia element, I took dealership. Jeans was a new fad in the 70s. There's a large company, textile company in Ahmedabad called Ayodhya Jeans. So I would buy 100 meters of cloth and sell it in my college with pieces. I would buy in bulk and then sell it in retail, and people would take them to stitch jeans.
Just to clarify, you were selling this in the Nagpur college?
No. My pre-Nagpur, I did 1 year in Elphinstone College.
Elphinstone, okay.
Elphinstone College. So I was doing that in Bombay, right?
Mumbai, yes, exactly.
Yeah, so the desire to do outside the ordinary, selling jeans, I used to go for, and this is where my entrepreneurial, I would say, energies came from. I would go to auctions of embassies who would sell long playing and short playing records. I would buy all of them and then sell it retail in colleges.
Great.
So, I should do unique things. Just
Pradeep, sorry to interrupt you, because you have given us so many points to clarify. So if you allow me, I want to do a rapid fire one and then back to the theme from your first answer.
Yeah.
So will I be right in saying that you were among the few Kashmiri Pandits who challenged the conventional wisdom that used to prevail then, and shayad abhi bhi bahut hai, Kashmiri Hindus can only perhaps be good employees. They do not have business in their genes. Even now, many Kashmiri Hindus tell their children, "Karaktswain business, kar kunjai gachkar nokri jaan poet kachuki business mein angda gyawa." So, does that still hold?
I think things have changed, right? Today, in the early years, if you look at the early 80s, business was not viewed as honest, straightforward, and ability to make money. Times have changed now. Now, if any of our sons or children are in business, we encourage them, because the ecosystem of support, and if a business, if an entrepreneur fails, he or she is not looked down upon. Things have changed dramatically. But what we have to look at it is that the era of doing business in the 80s is dramatically different from the era of doing businesses now. So from that standpoint, what I was very clear that, I won't get constrained. I will do what I have to do. And for that, I would say my parents and my family supported me.
Pradeep, was there anyone at that point of time in your extended family, and Kashmiris have extended families, who was involved in business, or were they all government or private sector professional employees?
Yeah, my mother's grandfather had a retail store in Lal Chowk called Sumbali Brothers. So that's the only exposure that but I didn't have any exposure to that, right? But that's the only element. If you're saying, was anyone in a business element, they were merchants representing various dealerships for Srinagar.
One more quick question. From the classmates in Srinagar that you had, are you in touch with any of those friends?
No, I left early. We left early, in the early years itself. So I don't have any classmates in Srinagar. Most of my classmates are in Mumbai. Okay,
great. So the reason I was trying to establish this point was of how a straightforward young boy from Kashmir, with the ethos that he had, how he chose to buy denim and sell it in cut pieces. So that is perhaps a great indication of your entrepreneurial genes. Now tell us about how you chose to stop being an employee and directly become an entrepreneur, because that is the whole message that we are trying to drive through this session today, of how one, you were unconventional in your choice of first few jobs, but then how did you make this huge leap of faith to get into the IT sector, which was relatively very little known at that point of time in our history?
I would just say that, when you look back, it seems fairly straightforward, but at that point of time, it's a matter of chance. It was a matter of chance, a matter of luck, and a matter of situation. And I will tell you why I'm saying that. After B school, as I said, my interest was consumer marketing. Wipro was one of the only companies that, that was hiring engineer MBAs and relatively paying more than the consumer marketing companies. And my objective of joining Wipro was less to build a career, was more to, I would say, learn about computers, because I said, whatever I do in my life, learning about computers will be immensely useful to me. And that has been my principle even today: learning things, taking uncharted paths and figuring out the way out. Now remember, Wipro, this is 1983, right? Wipro, for people who know Bangalore, operated at 88 MG Road, which was a small office there. We were probably 200 people. Then I come to Bombay. We operate from Mr. Premji's home. And from there, I've been given the worst territory as a salesman to say, go handle Thana Belapur belt. So what I would do, I would take a train, get off at Thana, take an auto, rent it for the whole day, and then call on all the companies in the Thana Belapur belt.
And what were you selling? Tell our audience.
I was selling mini computers. Selling mini computers.
What was a mini computer then? Because
this is
today's generation may not even know, Pradeep.
Yeah, so I would say in the early years, there was the mainframe that you may have heard of. Mini was before the client server, which means a centralized server system with dumb terminals. And we had been trained to go to a company and look at their, how many, the amount of data they have to do data entry for, type the typing speed, type how many errors they will do, type number of hours, and then convert that into how many terminals they will need. These are dumb terminals. They connect on a wire to a centralized processing machine. This is pre-IBM PC.
Yes.
Right? So I joined Wipro in my mind as a startup. And from there they said, can you open, since you studied in Nagpur, can you open Nagpur region? So I was given a lot of opportunities because I took initiative. From there, I leave Wipro and take a bold call to join Computer Point. And when I was talking of compensation, etc., when I was being interviewed for Computer Point as a third employee, I was the only person from the IT industry, and they were setting up a computer retail chain. I was 26, and I said, "Look, my salary will be." I had this, each one has a pet peeve to say, "I'm under 30, my salary should be 2,000 rupees into my age. About 30, it should be 3,000 rupees into my age." So I was 26. I said, "Will you pay me 52,000 rupees?" My salary was 30,000 rupees then. They agreed. I didn't think about it. So I joined Wipro. I joined Computer Point as the third employee.
Pradeep, would you advise youngsters to when they are entering into salary conversation, जब वो अपनी salary fix करवाना चाहते हैं, would you advise them to apply the same logic?
No. I think I think what I always tell people, when we hire, don't keep the penny so close to your eye that you don't see the dollar behind. So if I am a young person looking for a job, my focus is not compensation. My focus is the opportunity where I will learn the maximum. Now, to tell you from learning standpoint, we opened a shop, and then Computer Point had to open a store in Delhi. I said, I will do it. So I actually slept on a shop floor, on the floor, doing interiors. I learned hell of a lot of how interiors is done. Then the CFO left. I said, don't worry, I'll step in. So I played an acting finance manager. I played an acting HR manager. Because I said, I am not taking the risk. They are taking the risk by giving me these opportunities. So the learning I got in the process,
Pradeep, you are
so significant
now. Pradeep, I'm interrupting you. You are 62 now. Are you still learning? Have you stopped?
Absolutely learning. Absolutely learning.
So what is your message to our audience about, many people say that, you retire at some point, then you don't have to learn. You cannot learn. A lot of our elders say machine taga Facebook, machine taga Twitter, bukit put karai, machine taga Paytm karun. How do you approach that? What is the challenge there?
It's your mind. There's never, I would say, a challenge in learning. There's never an issue to say, I don't know. There's never a limitation on curiosity. You have to drive yourself. It's not difficult. It's simple. And these are small facets of what you said. But
Okay.
I think the learning is, and if you see my 30-year journey, 31 years in August, we started off as being a hardware company. I moved, at the peak of Microlines, we hosted Bill Gates' first visit to India on the 5th of March, 1997, his first visit to India. On the peak.
Let me interrupt you here, just for our audience to understand what Pradeep Kar was saying. The first ever visit of Bill Gates to India was organized by Pradeep Kar. Let our wide audience on Facebook also take note of this. Pradeep ji, please continue.
Yeah, so we hosted him and on a conference on 5th of March 1997. At the peak of, there are many nuances, stories, etc. We were the first distributors of Compaq in India. I remember we had just done a startup. Compaq was a $4.4 billion company, and I was pursuing Compaq to sign us up as a distributor. So I would go and find out where the MD is staying. He would travel to different countries. I would fly in, stay in the same hotel because I could not afford it, but I didn't want him to feel we were small. And, did several crazy things when I think about it today. And the craziest thing I'll tell you right now, you find it very fascinating. So in 98, decided that the hardware industry is not the future, exited the hardware industry, went to Internet 1.0. I was hiring for India.com, INDYA.com, right? AOL bought over, Time Warner. Suddenly, Rupert Murdoch felt that he's lost the battle, so he came desperately to Asia to say, let me at least protect my Asia turf. The CFO of News Corp calls me up. CFO, he's at the Leela, and says, look, I want to meet you. And I have the stupidity or the audacity to tell him, I don't have time to meet you. If you want to meet me. I'm at the Oberoi Belvedere. I will send you a car. Come across and meet with me. So I send him a car. His name is Gary Walroth. So I send him a car. He comes to the Oberoi. I meet him.
Is he still your friend, Pradeep?
Yeah. But I'll say there's so many trivias. So I send a car. He comes to the hotel. He comes to meet me. And I'm busy building, thinking, and doing something major. Sometimes ignorance sometimes really helps you, right? He said, we want to invest. I said, if you are willing to write a check for $50 million today, we have a deal. One conversation. He said, yes. We shook hands. No business plan, nothing. He said, what will you give me? I said, 1/3 of the company. Single check for 243 crores was handed over. Now, when you think about it, and I remember it was on March 11th, 2000, before the check that actually came, Rupert Murdoch came to see me. And I'll tell you how sometimes arrogance or stupidity works. So here I'm going to meet Rupert Murdoch. He's staying at the West End in Mumbai. West End in Bangalore. I go to his suite in the West End and I sit down. He says, hello. I said, we have 3 things in common. He said, what is this? I said, first, we both celebrate a birthday today. It was March 11th. It was his birthday and my birthday. I said, second, we both work on Sundays. And I said, third, we are here to make a deal. I mean, when I think about it, I would, at no point did I ever regret. I said what I said. I was so damn confident, etc., etc. Signed a check. Next day, he came to the office, inaugurated it. The check was in the bank. So, when I think about it, there's so many things we did, which didn't bother us.
Okay, I want to switch gears a little bit because you've said so many things which I believe by itself will be business studies, and just so that our audience understands, I'm sure that this 243 crore rupees at that point of time is worth many multiples now. And if it was done in 24, 48 hours, as you have explained, I would say that it will rank amongst the fastest M&A deals, perhaps in the history of business worldwide. But let us switch gears. And Pradeep ji, मैं जो आपसे अभी पूछना चाहता हूँ, it is 30 years after you started your entrepreneurial journey. 30 years, a lot of water has flown down the Vetasta, a lot of water has flown down the Ganga and Yamuna also. The IT industry has changed. The aspirations of Kashmiri Hindu boys and girls have also changed. 30 years back, I remember Sanjay Ganju had to fight for his MSc statistics classes to start. And I actually studied my 11th and 12th in government camp school, Satwari, Jammu. And the best thing about that camp school was that it was in 8 tents. And it would start at 1:30 in the afternoon. And the lovely heat of Jammu went into our bones. And I believe that every classmate today has very strong bones because of that exposure to sunlight. And our first principal in camp school Satwari was the late Professor Principal Bamze sir. So a lot has changed. And Pradeep, like you explained, you left Kashmir much earlier. You have not seen it. Sanjay Ganju's education got delayed. My education got delayed. And many people who are here in this chat, and I'm sure on Facebook, will remember these stories. So a lot has changed in these last 30 years. Our aspiration has changed. Our desires have also changed. How much is the identity of being a Kashmiri Hindu relevant and important in the world of business? Many people say that Kashmiri Hindus do not have it in their genes to be businessmen. They can be good teachers, professors, vice chancellors. There are a few exceptions like you. What would you say to this generalization I have made?
You know, I would just say the new generation that is evolving. First, I must say, you know, clearly my heart goes out to, you know, to all, you know, accomplished individuals such as you and Siddharth, you and Sanjay. We were just fortunate, we were blessed that, you know, my father decided to relocate to Mumbai, gave us great education. And there's some element to what education he also gave us, which if I think about it, has helped my and my sisters growing up. So we were fortunate and blessed, but we didn't lose the sight, you know, of the opportunities that we got provided, and we ensured that we maximized what we could do, right? I think in today's context, you know, the limitation is the imagination and the aspiration. It is not capability. So, you know, one thing I always say is that you are judged by your past, by others, but you believe on your potential, right? So you want to be believed by your potential and not by your past, and you have to be confident to take steps which also may fail. Any of the steps I've taken could have failed. Coming back from the US, you know, we were in the US, I could have been very happy, bought a car, bought a house, settled in a nice place, but I knew that I would be a second-class citizen. There was no ambiguity. Partly, I was also fortunate that my wife is from the Tata Administrative Services, and she's also half Kashmiri, right? So when I took the step, she said, "You go start your business. I will get the money coming in to support income." It's a very important part. For a few years, we had no income coming. So the advantage of my wife Kalpana earning and saying, "You don't worry about it. You know, you do what you have to do, and I will get the money coming in," is an important step, right? I think what has changed now dramatically, which is I would urge, the opportunities are enormous. The opportunities are global. Okay. Availability of money is enormous today.
Okay, I want to do 2-3 rapid fires on that point. Number one, to those parents whose children come and tell them, "Papa, मैं चाहिए नौकरी करें, मैं कोरमई engineering but बुला गए startup." yeah, a girl who says that she doesn't want to immediately get married, she wants to do a postgraduate degree. Yithin parents and kya vanu toy Pradeep ji, what will you tell them?
I would say let them follow the passion. Absolutely. Absolutely. The world is different from the world that we have grown up. Today, tomorrow, if you're a young child who may want to drop out of college to do a tech startup, right? I would say go ahead and do it. If we get constrained by what we thought in the past, education is not a degree. Education is what happens between your degrees, what you do over the 4 or 5 years is not the degree, right? I would say absolutely let your child take a step. Nothing ventured, nothing gained.
A lot of parents and children still say, and मैंने भी ये बहुत बारी सुना है कि है बट द्राय इंजीनियर बने पूरी दुनिया आसमान फैले मगर यम कर्न IAS IPS IFS join यम कर्न तथ मन हुकूमत मिला तथ मन ताकत मिला यम कैज कर्न ये सर्विस बट लड़के छ कोर छ बड़ अकलमंद. Why have they not joined the central services? What would you say to them?
You know, the central services also needs exceptional people. And absolutely, if they join the central services, the country needs exceptional bureaucrats. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. There's nothing right or wrong on the decisions you take, right? So I would clearly say that, the conventional paradigm is job security. Right? And what you're saying now, IAS, IFS, IPS, etc., provides job security. But the reality is, there is nothing like job security emerging. The challenge of education today is that you get a degree when you're 22, and that what you have learned at age of 22, you're supposed to continue till next 40, 50 years. The education system has to change to have after 45 do one more degree to bring you back to what's required. So, India does not do that. I mean, the world does not do that. What you have learned at age of 20 is expected for you to carry forward before you until you're 60. Times have changed. But I would just say that education, the colleges and environments provide you a platform. What you do with the platform is what makes what makes the opportunity for you. I could have retired in Wipro as a senior exec or something, whatever could have happened.
Yeah, that is a very fair point, and I would request all viewers, parents, children, young boys, girls who are tuning in on Facebook to make note of the fact that Pradeep Kar just told us that he came back from the US at a time when everyone wanted to go there. So coming back was a very contrarian call, and clearly shows the guts, the self-belief. Again, 2-3 rapid fire questions before we try and get some questions. Some of questions have already come in, and I would request Yete agar kaanti sawal chu yacha prachun, please raise your hand, preferably put the question in the chat room, and Sanjay Ganjuji will be monitoring that and taking those questions. So Pradeep, you said this, and therefore I'm asking you, what does failure mean to you?
An opportunity to learn.
And is success permanent?
Never. Success is at success is at a point of time, right?
Okay.
And if you get too carried away on success, it's the last thing you want to get done.
Okay. Now some 2-3 points on career choice and how to make that in today's world post-corona. Like you said correctly, IT has evolved. 30 years back, what you would have imagined when you were setting up Microland, and today's Microland is very different. You have grown from, like you said, no revenues to perhaps more than $1 billion. Today, in the IT technology world, someone who is in class 12th and preparing to become an engineer, or who is not an engineer, has some other level of education, what is the future in terms of employment and opportunity and business opportunity, entrepreneurial opportunity over the next 5 years, because I don't think you can model for 10, but अगले 5 साल अगर किसी युवा ने IT और related fields में अपना life career बनाना है तो उसे क्या करना चाहिए?
I think two things. Clearly, technology is here to stay. Right. So one piece of suggestion is no matter what you follow in your life, whichever discipline, whichever stream, think about how technology is going to enable that field. So, being savvy in technology is a must in today's world. You may be a journalist, you may be, an artist, you may be wherever in manufacturing. So technology is a very integral part, right? Second is that as you do your daily life, as you do your work, you will see things that should not be the way it is, right? Be very observant on what you think. A lot of businesses have got created when by seeing what was not happening to say, let me try and fix this situation, right? I would say never be satisfied. The day you think you've arrived, etc., you have stopped learning.
Absolutely.
Never be satisfied, right? Always be paranoid, always learn, always be very observant, and more than anything else, in business and in corporate, in corporate work, be very humble, be very good with people. A big element of skill that is required, which I will say that I have learned over a period of time, is managing, motivating, challenging people in a constructive manner, right? Never be arrogant. So I would just say galvanize people and always hire people better than you. Never be insecure. Many people hire people who are less than them. I always try and hire the guys who are much better than me so that I ride with their success and then ensure that, you don't come in their way, etc., etc.
Some youngsters who are watching us probably would be thinking that it is fine to have a desire कि इस बनाओ entrepreneur, punning business बनाओ, but how do we raise the capital? Today, if a youngster was planning to raise capital, what are the practical top 3 suggestions and advice that you would offer to such youngsters?
First, I'll say 2 things. Not everyone is cut out to be an entrepreneur. You have to understand, everyone should not be an entrepreneur. Someone can be great leaders and great managers in large corporations. So you have to, take a call very early. What's your personal DNA? How much of a risk and uncertainty you can live with? That's one, right? Second is that as an entrepreneur, one will go through difficult times. You have to stay optimist. You cannot leave the course. As an entrepreneur, all the employees can leave, but you are driven to the cause, right? So I would just say it's not that everyone should be an entrepreneur or will be a successful entrepreneur, right? But having said that, when I look at people fund 2 things. Investors largely fund people and then say, I will work with them to fine tune the business plan. Or someone takes a call as a private equity investor to say, I like this business idea very well. I will take this entrepreneur and I'll build a team that will drive that. So clearly a business idea and I would say a team, because today investors prefer funding more than not a single person. You always need a partner, to bounce off and give you feedback, right? I would say money is available, but be very detailed. And the advantage of going out to raise money, more than getting money, is you will get questions that you may not have thought of. There's a science in how do you raise money. There's a science in the thinking that you do. There's science in the competitive landscape. There's science in what will succeed. And finally, I would just say, raise 50% more than what you want, because you never know things will go in plan.
Absolutely. And I think before I start the question answer session, I have one more question and you can choose to answer it. Will you invest in Kashmir if you have the opportunity?
I'm not sure. Now, you're saying, the question is the following, right? Will I invest in Kashmir? Right? There are 2 aspects to that. Invest in Kashmir as in land,
No, from a business point of view, setting up a business.
Will I open a facility in Kashmir?
Yes.
In current situations, absolutely not. And the reason is very simple. We serve global customers. Unless an international flight lands in that city, we can't set up an office. Right? We have to be very practical in what we will do. There's an emotional element, there's a practical element. We must be very clear that both are, because remember, you have an opportunity, you're responsible towards a shareholder. You have to do what is right for the business from that standpoint.
When did you last visit?
Unfortunately, on my honeymoon in '97.
Okay, that's great. I think that's
no. We had, NASSCOM had planned to go there. We had done with a bunch of Kashmiris. There's Rajiv Thadani from NIT. There's Rajiv Kaul, CMS. There's Rakesh. We had planned during Omar Abdullah's time to go to Kashmir. And then there was that, the blast that happened with the Gujarati tourists, and that got shuffled.
Okay. All right. Okay. That's great. I think we can start the questions. And Sanjay Ganjuji, I think we had questions, 5 or 6 questions that had already come in. Ritik Bakshi, Sanjay Rana, Aryan Ganju, Pammi Pandita, Abhay Ganju, Danika Shali, and Karan Safaya. Sanjay, do you have...
Yes, they are. I think you can start with Sanjay Rana. He has already raised his hand.
Okay.
Sanjay, you can unmute. I'll unmute him.
Okay. So Sanjay Rana, you are being unmuted. Please ask your question. Sanjay Rana.
Introduce yourself and then ask your question.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. I am Sanjay Rana. So basically, I am also currently working in IT sector only. I am working in Schneider Electric. I'm located at Gurgaon, and I am taking care for entire North Zone as a service head. I have 2 questions basically. One, that we are right now talking about the business point of view, and also my first question is, what is the impact of this automation? Because nowadays everything is going on automation. Like even today, if we are serving our customers, earlier we used to send our engineer to sites. They used to visit and check what is the problem in the system. Then we used to physically close the cause. I'm personally talking on that part. But right. My concern is that even if this automation part is implemented, and it is implemented more, then what will be the impact on the employment? Because if we keep on just troubleshooting the system over phone or through internet, then definitely a lot of work load will be downloaded to one person, rather than going multiple engineers going to site and coming back. So my question was that what will be the impact if this automation system is 100% implemented? What will be the impact of employment in India?
Okay. First, Sanjay, I have very high regard for Schneider. We have a lot of Schneider UPSs, and once we had a crisis, and the southern team were exceptionally good to us. So, and I understand, I know the services that Schneider provides. We are large customers of Schneider. So it's a great company. I think I'll say 2 things, One, coincidentally, I've just written an article, which is in the business world. So if you type Pradeep Kar automation business world, you'll find a very large article where I said automation, the outsourcing 4.0. I've covered it in depth. It's a large article that got published a week ago. So I would urge you, since you mentioned on automation, and it's an automation available on Google, on Business World website. But I think the reality is, and if you read the article, automation does not take jobs away. It changes the number of jobs. And one example, I've given in the article itself was that, ATMs came in, automatic teller machines. Right? But after ATMs came in, the number of tellers in banks doubled. It did not take those tellers away. Right?
Yeah.
So I would say it's absolutely imperative that there is a new workforce coming in called the bot workers, right?
Right.
Right. And I don't want to say much. Please read this article. It's a very detailed, elaborate article. I can send it to Sanjay, the link. If you do a Google search, you'll find it right now on Business World current issue. It's a large story I've written on automation.
Thank you so
But
much.
I would say, I would clearly say that take automation as your partner. So if in your role, I will focus a lot on building automation skills.
Okay.
And now coming back to Siddharth, learning Python, learning coding is a very integral part of the future of the workforce. So it's not C++ anymore, it's Python and all, right? So I would say coding for young children is very important in whatever you do today.
I cannot agree more.
And Sanjay, I'm happy to connect with you one-to-one to give you more feedback, but read the article and tell me your comments as well on that. It's a large article written a week ago. It's on public domain.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
It's an important point that you have made, Pradeep ji. Our sector is also going through tremendous changes. In the last 4 months, the media industry has changed, and I believe most 95% of all media people in the world, not just in India, will have to perhaps learn some amount of software to survive in the future. That's a very good point. Next questions, Sanjay ji.
We have Aryan Ganju, so I'll unmute him. Aryan.
Hello, sir.
You can ask your question. You just introduce yourself and then.
Hello, sir. My name is Aryan Rajesh Pinju, and I'm.
Can you switch on your video also? You have a lovely face. I know you.
I currently my room is not lit properly, so I don't think.
Okay, so you must. Okay, please go ahead.
My name is Aryan Rajesh Pinju, and I'm currently studying computer engineering in Netaji Subhash University of Technology, which is in Delhi. I wanted to ask you about your aspirations to become more shifted towards IT instead of a mechanical engineering, but it seems you already answered that question in your introduction, so I don't think I have anything else to ask about you.
Thank you, Aryan. Wishing you all the best.
You already answered my question.
Wishing you all the best, Aryan.
Thank you, sir.
So next one is Pammi Pandita. Pammi ji, please go ahead.
Namaskar, Sarni.
Namaskar.
Pradeep ji, it is really very nice and encouraging to hear your story, how you started your career, and that too at a time when things were not as good as it's now. Opportunities were not there at that point in time. I have a couple of questions. My first question is that we are primarily a service-based country. So our work depends mostly on other countries. Anything that happens there affects us. For example, Cognizant firing 18K employees in Bangalore alone, then usually labor laws go for a toss. So what's your opinion on IT in India?
I would just say these are difficult situations, right? When you are a public company and you're responsible to a bunch of public shareholders, and unfortunately, the way public companies work, you have to meet short-term requirements. So CEOs very often get under tremendous pressure to take short-term decisions to safeguard interests of the shareholders. But the reality is that I always tell my Microlander colleagues to say, there is no job security, right, in life, right? We'll provide a platform. We will provide training, we'll provide skill sets, etc. But what you do outside the office, what you learn outside the office is what you will build your job security at. Just joining a company doesn't mean that now you're in employment for life. Every year you have to ensure that what you have learned and what you do is going to be relevant to the company's future. Because remember, businesses and industries change faster than individuals. So each one has to ensure that your skill sets are very relevant to the future of your industry, and you have to invest in that. So I would just say that, it's unfortunate that Cognizant, has done that, but that's reality of life. That's reality of life. No one signs you up just because you got a you got a degree doesn't mean you have a job for life. You have to be relevant and a value creator in whatever you do in life. I would say we should embrace change and not shy away from change.
Absolutely. Sanjay?
So we can have Danika Shali now. Danika, please unmute yourself. Yeah. Danika, please unmute yourself. No. Yeah. Please go ahead with your
Hello.
question. Yeah, go ahead.
My name is Danika, and I'm currently in class 11. And my question was that what are the few best professions to choose in the IT field?
You know, I would step back and say, you know, I would say, you know, the IT field, you know, by definition, is going to be very much an automation-led field. But more than deciding the IT field, which also means that the call that you have taken that you want to build a career in IT, right? And therefore, if I look at what are the opportunities today, and this will change, clearly cybersecurity. The amount of risks in an online world as more and more industries, businesses, and life goes virtual, security will be a big issue. So I would assume in the near 5 years, as Siddharth said, you will have ample opportunities if you're a rock solid cybersecurity professional. Statement number one. Number two is the entire areas of data center and cloud. As more and more server like Zoom is going into, you're running this from a cloud environment. Clearly data center and cloud environments will be the second element. And the third element is workplace transformation, which is how end users will start adapting to remote working. I would just say if you're taking three, I will rate, if you're building a career, I would say focus on cybersecurity today. Then go move into cloud, Azure, Google Ops, AWS, etc., etc. But be deep. Don't be shallow. Be deep. Be deep into it.
Be deep. Sanjay ji?
Yeah, then we have Abhay. Can you unmute yourself, Abhay? Abhay, can you unmute yourself? Yeah, please
Hello.
go ahead. Yeah, show your bearded face also.
Sanjay, I'm impressed. You remember everyone.
Yeah, they have been attending the session, so
Go ahead, Abhay.
And Abhay is. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Abhay, and I work in Bangalore for a company called Metric Stream, and I'm a full stack developer there. So my question regarding is something related to my clients, which I work for example, McKinsey, British Petroleum, and Buyers. So what I've seen in the recent 1 year is that the hype which we were giving towards artificial intelligence and maybe general intelligence in general, it has actually dried up a little bit in last 1 or 2 years. So do you think that that's the case? And if it's the case, then what is the reason? Can it be like the lack of data, the processing power of the computers, or just what do you call the hype was just too much to begin with?
Very nice question.
Abhay, first, I know Gunjan Sinha very well, your founder. Very well, right? And by the way, he was one of my small investors in Planet Asia. So, if you tell him, is he still involved with the company now? Because I know that after the Kleiner Perkins and all, he's a good friend of mine, give my regards. You know him very well, right?
Yep.
I think I know Metric Stream. I think it was the entire world of compliances that came.
Correct.
Right? That's how it came. I think the essence, I've not kept track on what Metric Stream does. Clearly, it's a great company. We have great set of investors because I think Kleiner also invested in that, right? I think the essence is that how will compliance, so let me give you a generic answer, right? How will compliance how will compliance evolve in an interconnected virtual world? In a physical world, it's a little easier. In an interconnected virtual world, how will audit and compliance work, right? How will you detect non-compliance? So I would say in the current context, you're saying it's slowed down. It's only because I would say the ecosystem has slowed down. So people are going a little more cautious. Discretionary spending is becoming less until there's far more clarity and stability in how the economy will evolve. So this may be a temporary phenomenon. I'm quite certain Metric Stream will do, it's working on cutting edge, will do whatever is required to be relevant from that standpoint. But since you're there, you're getting a bird's eye view on what's going on in the compliance area. So I'm coming back to what Siddharth and Sanjay said. You may have an opportunity to see things that they could do better or differently. And that's an entrepreneurial opportunity for you because you're seeing what's going on and you're a full stack developer. Clearly you're on the right space at the right time. Just look at the entire ecosystem, build the ecosystem in a whiteboard to say, how will the ecosystem work in tomorrow? In a fully remote working interconnected world, and where are the compliance challenges that you think will evolve, and you can build stacks for them as well. Give Gunjan my regards and wishing you all the best, Abhay.
Thank you.
So we have a couple of questions which I have received offline. One is from Karan Safaya. His question is, how can tech companies achieve rapid growth rather than a flat line in post-COVID world? What are your views on big data? As we know, the data we produce daily is of interest to many sectors. So can we consider big data as the new black gold of digital age?
I would just say, what I would urge, what's the individual who asked that question?
Karan Safaya.
What I will tell Karan is that don't get stuck with big data. It's a technology stack. Just think about it. Right? It cannot create a business by itself. Right? Amazon is using big data. Right? So I would just say big data is how you mine data, and what outputs do you get out of that is the opportunity. So I think the essence is today, if you look at which are the companies that have done exceptionally well in the COVID era, it's all platform companies. It's Google, it's Facebook, it's Apple, it's Tesla, it's all platform companies. So clearly what it's telling you is the next phase of IT evolution is platforms, right? Look at the top 10 companies. Today, I heard this morning in The Economist, is Tesla for the first time superseded Toyota as the world's largest car company in terms of market cap, $220 billion. Yet to turn $1 of profit, right? So I would just say, investors reward innovation, investors reward risk with a long-term impact, right? And I would say, I don't know if it's happened here or in an earlier question, India has evolved as an IT services company, right? As IT services industry, which I think that Pammi asked about, Cognizant, et cetera, et cetera. But if you look at the new wealth creators in India, all the new wealth creators in India are serving Indian markets. Jio is not focused on serving international markets. So when many of the IT companies evolved, including us, it was very simple. Sell in dollars, incur cost in rupees, the rupee depreciates 7% a year, damn good. You have a tax exempt for X number of years, no brainer. The model is right. But the new model of evolution you see, all wealth creators in India are all in India. So the next phase of growth that will happen, an evolution of businesses and enterprises, will be companies focus on the domestic market, because now the market parity, the purchasing power has changed. And you will see that how that market is what Indian, I would say, leading businesses are trying to exploit.
Okay, that was a great answer. I think some great questions. And the point, I have one more question, the last one from my side before we go to the vote of thanks.
No, there are a couple of more questions. We can just
go ahead, Sandeep.
One is from Facebook, Sandeep Durani. He is also an IT professional. He asks, after cloud, what is the future of technology?
It's a very difficult question to answer because I don't understand the question. Right? Because think about 2-3 things, right? Now, what is cloud? Cloud is a set of data residing in an environment that is not in your premise. Someone else is running that, right? the world is moving into as a service world. When you consume power, you really don't care where does it get generated, how does it get transmitted. As long as it comes in a meter, you consume it. When you do a phone, you pick up the phone, you expect the phone to work. You really don't care how it moves from where to where, etc., right? But so cloud is a central repository away from what you own. Between the cloud and between the consumption, you have the network. It has to flow through a network, right? You have security, you have endpoint devices, you have applications that run. So there's the IT industry is going nowhere. It's just evolving differently the way it was conceived earlier.
Right. Then we have one question from Neera Kak Garg. Can someone ask this question on my behalf? What is the future of analytics in the coming 5 years?
I would say, Clay, the first role that analytics played, which now is going through a slight slowdown, was in the retail industry, right? Because helping people buy, analytics of what they're shopping, consumer preferences, etc. Retail is going through a shift. But if you look at analytics embedded into machine learning and embedded into artificial intelligence, is what today Amazon does. Amazon is exactly what you're looking for. It knows what people who bought that. That's all behind the scenes of analytics going on. So analytics is a big element of what I would say, how data gets converted into information relevant to the consumer at a point of time and at a point of place that the consumer is present in.
Then we have Ritik Bakshi, who says, how will COVID-19 impact the IT industry globally as well as in India, and what are the skills that its employees should have in this new normal to survive and thrive?
I would say clearly, when the recovery starts, spending will start, right? In the current context, when there is a little element of uncertainty in businesses, right? And therefore spending by clients are more constrained. So that spending will start. But having said that, I think the big element of skill sets that, I would say individuals need to think of and focus on is ability to deliver services remotely. What has changed dramatically in the COVID era is working from home is a norm. So companies will start looking at workplaces very dramatically differently. We'll start looking at performance appraisals dramatically differently. Right. So how do you manage to work from home? Keep yourself motivated. How do you learn remotely? How do you manage time remotely? And we all say work-life balance. What is work-life balance when you're always at home?
Yeah.
So I would just say there are new personal skill sets that each one has to develop in, and I'm sure organizations will also evolve in dealing with a workforce which is distributed, which is going through its own difficult times. And in Indian context, I would say the struggle of having power, the struggle, many apartments sometimes may not have power, specifically in situations like Bangalore. Bandwidth, right? So when we deliver services, for example, we run GE's network in 176 countries, right? And therefore, consumption of bandwidth that is required. So we have to monitor, the consumption of the bandwidth when the data card that they have will consume all this data bandwidth that they have paid for. It's a very fine element that needs to get evolved. And having said that, I would say the future of technology and IT services in India is always bright. The nature of skills required will evolve and change. So be on the right side of the skill sets that the future will require.
Right.
Okay. So I think Pami also wants to, she has raised her hand. She wants to ask one more question. Before that, I would also like to, just mention that Pradeep, since we were talking about the Gandharbal project, the father was involved in that. My grandfather, Pandit Niranjan Nath Ganju, he was a civil contractor for that project.
Then you should know my father. Then he should know my father.
Yeah, he must be knowing. Yeah, my grandfather is now expired, but I guess my father must be knowing him because, in fact, my uncle was also, civil engineer. He retired as chief engineer.
Small world.
Yeah. Pamiji, you wanted to ask some questions, so you can unmute yourself.
Okay, is she there?
She's there.
Hello.
Yeah. Please go ahead.
When
Mr. Kar, one question I just wanted to ask that if you could clarify or guide what are the opportunities for someone like me who's not in IT to contribute in the field, since the world is going digital and eventually we all would be using technology one way or the other. So it's better, we might as well get that fear out soon rather than later.
For me, it's a very difficult question because I don't know your experience, I don't know your background, I don't know your education, I don't know what you've done. And for me to say, look, I know exactly what you should do will be completely
So briefly, sorry for interrupting. Briefly, I am a BSc Home Science student, and my experience, work experience of 22 years has been in telecom industry in administrative side only. That's it. And currently, I'm a housewife.
I would just say focus on what you have built skills and for which you have credibility. And look at skills, look at opportunities in those lines itself. That you'll have a higher level of success there. I don't have an answer. It's very difficult for me to say that.
Sanjay ji, I had one question for Pradeep before we go towards the vote of thanks by Anjana.
Before you ask that question, I would also like to, he can, wrap it up with that only, with your answer only. That what will be his message for the youngsters of our community, a crisp message, particularly with regard to their profession and career. Yeah. Now you can go ahead with your question.
Just the one first small question. What is the right age to become an entrepreneur?
When I was looking at being an entrepreneur, the right age was 28 to 33. But remember, I'm talking of 30 years ago. Because the reason it was 28 to 33 is because at that point of time, there was an element of maturity and experience that was necessary to be an entrepreneur. In today's world, there is no right age to be an entrepreneur. A 15-year-old can be an entrepreneur. A 17-year-old can be an entrepreneur. I would just say the sooner the better.
Okay. Siddharth is talking about senior citizen age.
No, there's no right age. I would just say, I would say there's no right age. Absolutely.
Perhaps he wants to start an enterprise.
No, think about it. No, let me respond. There is Mr. Ashok Soota, who runs a company called Happiest Minds, former CEO of Wipro. Then he was a co-founder of Wipro. Yeah. He's now a co-founder of Mindtree. Today, at the age of 76, he's taking his company public. He started it at 66. There is no right age.
Great point. Great point. And before I ask you the final point that Sanjay wanted, and that will be the final comment from you, I just wanted to underscore that from the conversation today, one point that I have personally believed, although I do not have specific empirical data, 30 years ago when Kashmiri Hindus were thrown out of Kashmir and they lined up at Gita Bhavan in Jammu, and when the registrations happened, I distinctly remember there were several thousand teachers, there were several hundred engineers who were working in departments like public health engineering, PWD, power department. There were hundreds of people who used to run small businesses, shops, and used to do trading. There was a very large, a significant, not very large part of a farming community. 30 years later, and the kind of education opportunities that have come across for Kashmiri Pandits, I think a bulk of our younger generation present and the one that is currently getting educated, I think 70-80% are now technically trained engineers. And I think we should be very proud that as a community, not only have we always enjoyed for dozens of years, I think for many decades, very high literacy in our women. I think a very high percentage of our women, our Matrushakti, are technically qualified engineers. In the last 15-20 years, the number is astounding. I think that will have its own social consequences also. And on that note, Pradeep, considering the evolution of our community, considering the kind of education opportunities, considering the fact that even after migration, within days, within less than 3 weeks of migration, the first thing my family did was to rush me off to a tuition class. That has continued in the last 30 years. The premium that Kashmiri Pandits give on education has continued, and we should all be grateful for that. Given that backdrop, what is your final message to people of how they should approach their future and their life?
You know, you mentioned a very interesting point, and you know, I'll tell you a piece of data. If I think around 7 to 8 members of the Carr family from Srinagar today live in the US. And you know, in this chat itself, I see my niece Amru Carr. She's there. You know, this is a good example of being displaced. The parents relocated from Srinagar in 1990 in the displacement, landed up in Bangalore, and sure enough, today both the daughters are there on this call, Ansuya and Amru, and Amru is sitting in Philadelphia doing exceptionally well. This is, you're seeing how the Pandit community took challenges and rebuilt their life from scratch. The rigor and the drive, I can see, you know, Sanjeev, you know, we have in this, I have, you know, nieces of parents who are here, all in the US, living brilliantly, doing exceptionally well. And that would not have happened had this displacement not taken place. So they've been able to pull up their socks and rebuild their careers. And they will keep the community flag very high. I'm very optimistic when I see the, you know, the energy and the positivism, despite what they've gone through, how they've transitioned and built their careers. So with that, I want to clearly say that high hopes. And summary, I would just say, the future is not what you see. The future is what you make of the opportunities ahead. Nothing mentioned, nothing tried. Stay optimistic, stay focused, stay curious. Wishing
Wonderful.
all the young community all the best.
Thank you very much, Pradeep, and wishing you many, many decades of entrepreneurial success ahead and more to Pandit power. Let me now request Anjana Safaya for her vote of thanks today.
And before Anjana comes, my two lovely sisters, my elder sister, who was the genius of the house, who went on a Fulbright scholarship to North America, Sunita Dhar is here. And my younger sister, Rajni, is here. I'm feeling humbled in front of their presence. Thank you.
And they want to, you know, just, you know, put across any point so we can, you know, unmute them, or they can just speak for a minute, or
yeah, you know.
Then we can propose a lot of things. You can unmute yourself, those who want to, you know, just.
I just wanted to say thanks, Pradeep uncle, and he has been growing up. I lived in Bangalore after the migration, after the exodus, and we used to go to his house in Bangalore, and he has been an inspiration. He probably doesn't know that he has inspired me growing up, and I'm really proud to be part of the family, and to be and of course my parents and everything. It's great to be part of the family and see also the community. I work for KOA on the side, and it's amazing what our community is capable of, and I'm really proud of how we are doing in spite of the hardships that we face. Thanks, Pradeep uncle. I really enjoyed your talk, and thanks for Gash Sarup for hosting it. It's wonderful. Thanks.
Thanks, Amru.
Okay. Thanks. If there's no one else, then can we go to Anjana Safaya ji? Anjana ji? Anjana ji, to unmute.
Hello?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. Namaskar to Honorable Pradeep ji, respected Siddharth ji, Sanjay ji, Dilip ji, my colleagues, and all the participants. It's my proud privilege to have been asked to propose a vote of thanks today. I, on behalf of Jammu Kashmir Vichar Manch, extend a very hearty vote of thanks to Honorable Mr. Pradeep Carr ji, who blessed us with his presence and took out valuable time of his busy schedule. I must mention our deep sense of appreciation for Mr. Pradeep Karji for his remarkable work. Also, I would like to thank him for inspiring and enlightening us. The way he explained the topic is exemplary. I also wish to express my gratitude to our guest for providing encouragement and support to our youngsters. As no program can become successful with a single person, so I extend my big thanks to JKVM team for their support. Thank you all for making this talk series successful with your contribution. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So before we close, I'll just request Dilip Mattu, our president, to just say hi. Satish Bhatt to just say hi, and Kuldeep. Satish is our general secretary and Kuldeep is our treasurer. Just say hello, hello. Unmute yourself and say hello, and so we'll just close.
Dilip, it's good evening, and I'm Dilip
He's
Mattu.
an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I am an entrepreneur, yes, and I'm working here in Delhi NCR for last 22 years now.
Another entrepreneur, Satish Bhatt, is also entrepreneur. He's our general secretary. Satishji, please just say hello. I think he is dropped out. And then we have Kuldeep. He is an architect. Kuldeep ji, say hello. I think he is also
okay.
So we can just
Pradeep ji, thank you very much, and all the very best to everyone. Namaskar, thank you, Shubhratri. Majdivi Thevna Saidni Varvaite. Namaskar.
Excuse me. Thank you.
So we'll keep on bothering you. Pradeep ji, there was one more, sorry, I just, missed out. There are some, kids who were asking how can they get help from Pradeep ji, particularly for, during this time, summer, there are some IT students. Can they get some help in terms of internships, maybe online internships or wherever, will you be able to help in some way?
Yeah, so send me an email. You have my email address, and
yes,
I will get my team to respond back.
Yeah.
But my internships have already started. We take interns.
So I can send it across to you. If there is possibility, then you can maybe help them out.
I will do that.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Siddharthi, Sanjay ji, I am Sunita Dhar, Pradeep's.
Yes. I just wanted to.
I'm sorry, sure. I've been following your very, very interesting conversation.
You can put on a video.
Be inspirational.
Turn on your video.
Please, I don't have a chat option because I may not be part of your original group list. So I thought I would send some comments. But namaskars to all of you. And thank you, Pradeep. Wonderful. I learned a few things about you and from you this evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Thanks.
I would like to raise a question.
Yeah. Thanks, Sanjay. Thanks, Siddharth, for organizing this. I enjoyed it more than what I thought. But clearly, let's as a community do our nation proud, do the community proud. The mantle is on the next gen.
Yes.